Sir David Attenborough is a huge figure in wildlife film programming. But how are these great films created? To start this investigation off, I had the opportunity to travel to the BBC Natural History Unit in Bristol. I spoke to 3 producers about the behind the scenes of a wildlife programme.
When you start on a big series like Planet Earth, which is a 4-year production, you have a period of about 6 months of just planning, which is just finding stories, finding new stories, looking into locations, about the logistics. We do health and safety research, and we look at different camera crews and see who might kind of be best for the team that we're looking for. So there's a long period of planning before we actually get into the field.
Usually when you come to make a programme, you start with the idea, you think about what it is that you want to make, where you want to make it, where's it best to film it at the time of year for what you're doing. And then from that, you'll end up having to work out the details of how long the shoot's going to be, what you can afford, and what's safe to do that meets your editorial desires.
3 aspects, which is pre-production, production, which is filming, and post-production. Those are the 3 aspects. And our time is usually spent roughly equally in all those 3 areas, and each of them have to be planned meticulously.
How do they find the stories behind these amazing films?
How do we find the stories for natural history films? I mean, I guess they come from lots of different places. They initially come from our research that we do. We have a team of researchers looking into new stories, but they can also come from lots of different places now, from cameramen themselves who've witnessed things, from YouTube clips that people have put out, and we think that's super cool, we need to film that. A story for Planet Earth that I just did with the eagle stooping, I actually saw an eagle doing that behaviour in another country, and I thought, wow, that would be amazing to get on camera.
If you're filming, for example, the best things you can do is to research it thoroughly, find out what the most interesting aspects of Martin Mere are, what the most interesting aspects of working there is, and then try and plan in your head before you go, almost on post-it notes on a wall, like what order you want these things to be revealed to the audience, because it's all about how you tell it in terms of drip feeding the information to the audience and front loading it with action and leading to a revelation at the end, really.
First thing I do is I'm looking for new opportunities, I'm looking for a new opportunity, and then once I see that, I try to identify who might be the characters of the film, either human or animal, and to look at how there might be character change within that character story. Without character change, you don't really have a story. You know, the kinds of films I do, you don't really have a film. So looking for transformation within a character, within a film.
How important is the public and feedback?
I think it's really important that we never lose sight as programme makers that we're making this for the public. We all put so much of our own selves into every film. I think every filmmaker does, and that's important because otherwise you wouldn't do it. But you have to be making it for an audience, whoever your audience is. So the general public for us on BBC One are obviously our big audience, and to work on something like Planet Earth, where we've had such an amazing feedback from everyone, has been a little bit weird, to be honest. I've not had anything like it, and you know, it's a 4-year production where you're like in the zone making your own film, and it kind of belongs to you and no one else really. It's all like in your head. And then suddenly you like release it out there, and it's everyone else's to either criticise or love, and that takes a little bit of getting used to, especially when it's like such a big reaction as we got for Planet Earth. But on the whole, it's been amazing to get that feedback.
Twitter has completely changed how people give you feedback to programmes, because before it only used to be people who were motivated to write to you, and that's the only way you'd know what people thought about your programme. And that was often that the music's too loud. That's what all the people say on BBC Two programmes, the music's too loud. But then when Twitter comes out, you can watch people's reactions direct with the programme as it streams. So that's often what we do. We'll watch the programme as it, TX as it's called, as it transmits on one screen, and watch Twitter on another. And so you can get people's immediate reactions to it, whether they're positive or negative, and and just see if they feel what it is that we intended for them to feel when we were making it. And with Elephant Family and Me in particular, it was amazing to watch that, because people were carried away with the story of the elephant when it got its net on its foot, and were kind of motivated to help these creatures at the end because they saw the amazing kind of plight that even protected elephants are going through. So I think that it's definitely, I mean, it's the only way we can function is to listen to audiences and listen to what people want and desire, because we're not making programmes for our own sake, we're making programmes for the world to watch. So I think you'd be completely reckless if you weren't to listen to people's feedback. It just wouldn't be right.
Feedback from the audience is incredibly important. The way, and partly because it's important to see how people respond to your films, and to see, and those responses that the audience give you or films can give you an insight of what you might do on the next project, how to reach people, how to move people. Every film I've made in the last 5 years, I've watched it with a live Twitter stream to sort of see what people are saying. And Twitter's been very, very helpful for me for that, to be able to see which bits of the film people are responding to and how that makes them feel, and that informs what I might do on the next project.
That was a great insight to behind the scenes of a wildlife film. I now travel to Martin Mere to give it a go myself, creating a behind the scenes of a wildlife film. He said he should be pretty quiet because most kids are back at school. Today we're here at Martin Mere. We're going to go in and find out more about the wetlands, and also this is where I'm going to do my own behind the scenes of a wildlife film. Let's go and have a look. Hi Ricky, nice to meet you.
Hi, lovely to meet you.
What's Martin Mere cater for?
Well, Martin Mere is part of the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust that was established 70 years ago now by the late Sir Peter Scott. Martin Mere itself was established 42 years ago, so we have been effectively one of the top tourist attractions in the Northwest for over 40 years. In terms of what we actually are, it can be summed up by the original objectives of Peter Scott. We are somewhere where there is recreation, education and conservation. Now that's split up into two areas really. We have a nature reserve that is approximately 600 acres. That nature reserve has lots of different types of wetlands. So you've got open water, you've got reed beds, you've got marshland, you've got grassland, all of which cater for different levels of wildlife.
How important is Martin Mere for the environment?
Well, I think that comes down to also the question of why wetlands is important for the environment, and wetlands are incredibly important for the numbers of wildlife it actually provides homes for effectively, and that's safe homes as well. But it's not just wildlife, there's obviously an array of different types of fauna and things like that. So to actually supply a safe haven for wildlife, I think, is one of the huge, great important elements of wetland. Benefits for the environment, also benefits for people as well. It is probably through research, it is widely known now that wetlands and being outside in nature helps to help people that suffer from dementia, have depression problems, things like that. So I think wetlands as a whole ticks all the boxes for protecting everyone and all species we know that live in them.
Why is Martin Mere so important for the wildlife you have here?
Well, particularly at Martin Mere, one of the main reasons Martin Mere was actually established here was for the numbers of geese that would come here in the autumn. And originally you're talking up to 10, 20, 30,000 geese coming through this region in sort of September, October time, and Martin Mere was actually developed to create a safe haven for those birds to effectively. A lot of people call it as a sort of a motorway service station. They fly all the way from Iceland, they stop here, get refueled a little bit, and then they continue on their journey. So Martin Mere, having open areas of water and large areas of grassland and marshland, can really help to protect wildlife such as the pink-footed geese that come all the way from Iceland.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's not any otters and flamingos at Martin Mere. You need to watch out for these two. Here at Martin Mere, this is the swan goose just behind me. They originate from Mongolia, but mostly live in central China and southeast Russia. They're very uncommon in the wild. They can weigh up to 3.5 kilos with a wingspan of 46 centimetres. Here is a red-headed goose. Bred in southern South America. It rarely swims, but it feeds mainly on wetlands and grasslands that is perfect here at Martin Mere. In winter, it feeds off crops such as maize and sunflowers. It's easily identified with its head and upper neck chestnut brown. We're here outside the Harrier Hide at Martin Mere. This is a perfect place for any tweeters who are actually bird enthusiasts. So let's go inside and have a look what it looks like.
To encourage things like bird eaters and bittern and various little
So we went in the Harrier Hide there. We had a little go at shooting through the glass, and like we opened the window and tried to shoot through there. It came out okay. We don't have interchangeable lenses for this camera, so I can only go to 86mm of zoom. So I need a lot of longer zoom lens if we're doing something like this in the future. But it's given me a good insight of like the availability and like the stoppages of this camera. I can only go to a certain distance and stuff, so looking in the future, if you're doing this again, you'd want to look more into my kit, look a bit more. That's goodbye from me and Dusty here from Martin Mere.